Hello Trainer Sans. You guys like my URA guide, so I'm back with a Unity Cup Shine On Team Spirit scenario guide, aka Aharu. Sometimes new scenarios are upgrades for certain distance types like short or long builds, but in the case of Unity Cup, it's a direct upgrade for everything compared to the first URA scenario. So there's not really a reason to run URA anymore. In Unity Cup runs, you will have more stats and more skills, and you'll have much stronger UMAs. So love it or hate it, we're all Unity Cup gamers now. So getting into the scenario, for my fellows with a short attention span, all you really need to know is that flame up trainings are really good. They're not as good as rainbows, but definitely worth prioritizing if you don't have any rainbows. The flame up trainings increase your flame bar, and it makes that team member a lot stronger. When their flame bar is maxed, the next time you do a training with them, you get a bunch of bonus stats as well as skills. And for your 5 showdowns that you'll have in your run, I recommend that you start with option 2, then pick the top option for the rest of your run, aka a 2-1-1-1 path. That's it. That's all you really need to know. The rest of the video will have more details, but you're free to explore and discover your own playstyle in this scenario, which I think is part of the fun. Alright, for everyone else that wants to learn more about the details, I got you covered. So Unity Cup has the same basic fundamentals as the URA, you have the same career objectives for your UMA, the requirements for leveling up your unique skill is the same, and you finish the career with the same 3 URA finale races. But the main gimmick of this scenario is that instead of only having one UMA to train, you're also raising an entire horse girl team on the side, with the goal to become the rank 1 team. Don't feel overwhelmed though, because for the most part your team roster is just passively upgraded throughout your run, and it doesn't really require any micromanaging. Every 6 months in your run, you get a team showdown event where you face off against an enemy NPC roster in a team trial format, and when you beat them, you get boosted team stats, and your team rank goes up, with the final goal to beat your main rival's Team Zenith by the end of the run. Anyways, I'll talk about the showdowns in a bit, but first I want to go over raising your team, since it's the most important thing for making a successful Unity Cup UMA. You start with just the UMA that you picked for your career run, then on turn 3, the UMAs in your support cards will join your team, and then these 4 which will always join you if they haven't already. While your support cards will have the same bond gauge that you should focus on filling up for those rainbow trainings, each member on your team will also now have a flame bar. When you do a flame up training, it will boost that UMA's personal stats as well as increase their flame gauge. And when their flame gauge maxes out, you can do a one-time spirit burst for that UMA, which will give that UMA a bunch of stats, but also give your main UMA some bonus stats based on the training that you popped it on, as well as random skill hints. It's important to know that you can save the pop for when it lands on a stat that you want or for a really good turn, but don't save it for too long because popping flames is pretty important for making your team strong enough for the showdowns. You might find yourself losing these showdowns if you have a bunch of unpopped flames that you are greeting out on. But after each showdown, new members will join your team, so you'll get a constant stream of new flames to build up and pop throughout your run. And I definitely recommend putting extra priority on popping any flames near the end of your run so that they don't get wasted. The stats of your team also determines your training facility levels now. Instead of the whole 4 trainings equals 1 level, it's now solely based on the stats of your team members. The math behind it isn't really that important, but in general, your facility levels will be much higher compared to the URA scenario, and the trainings that you do more of will still generally be a bit higher level than the others. In terms of prioritizing flames, I still think rainbows is more important for the raw stats alone, but when you don't have any rainbows, it's definitely good to pick a training that has a lot of flames, because you do want a strong team roster. So to summarize why flame training is important, popping flames gives your main UMA a bunch of stats, it makes your team members stronger so that they can win races for you, it increases your team rank, which gives you even more stats, and higher stack rates means higher level training facilities, which is very important. So yeah, leveling your team up when you can is very good. As for the showdowns on your run, they are pretty straightforward. You have to take first place more times than your opponent, so typically that's just winning at least 3 out of the 5 races. Each showdown you get 3 difficulty options to pick from, and the harder of a team you beat, the higher your team rank increases, and you need to be high enough rank to face Team Zenith on the final showdown. The way that the math works out is that the challenge Team Zenith, you pretty much only have 2 paths. You can go top, 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 middle, aka 1-1-1-2, or middle, top, 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 which is 2-1-1-1. If you pick any easier races than this, or if you end up losing any of your races, then you won't get Team Zenith at the end, and you won't get those bonus stats for beating them. It's not the end of the world if you don't win all your showdowns, but it's definitely something that will make a good Uma great. So realistically, the only decision you'll ever make on your runs regarding showdowns is the very first one, where you decide between either top or the middle, and after that, you pretty much know what you have to do. And I'll be honest with you, I get scared picking the top option for the first showdown. At that point, both you and your opponent's stats are still low, which means that races are still largely decided based on RNG, and losing the showdown kind of bricks your entire run. If you had a lot of flame trainings at the start, and Tazna gives you at least 4 double circles, then yeah, you can pick the top option and gamble it, but don't say I didn't warn you about the risks. Here's me crashing out 4 years ago because I picked the top option and lost even with 4 double circles. So yeah, just be aware that it happens. And that's kind of why I like taking the safer approach with a 2-1-1-1 path, even if it makes your team a little bit less stronger at the start. Generally, showdowns 2, 3, and 4 are pretty easy to win. Zenith is sometimes pretty tough, but if you've been doing a lot of flame trainings, then I would say you have a pretty good chance of winning. However, sometimes in your run, you'll have to pick between really good rainbow trainings and really good flame trainings. Sometimes it's just better to ignore the flames and take the raw stats, because sacking your showdowns is a viable strategy if it means you'll have better stats overall. Just something to keep in mind, that losing your showdown is still pretty okay depending on the situation. And finally, I want to go over some personal micro-opties that I learned from my time on JP. Is it worth manually editing your team roster? No, not really. The only time I ever make an edit is if I'm running a dirt hybrid Uma like Oguri or El Condor Pasa, then I'll put them as a dirt runner for the first race since Harvard tends to struggle a bit there. But after that, the game does a good enough job at making the best possible roster for you. Do scenario link cards matter? The main thing they do is let you pick a different team name, which gives you a different gold skill. Except that the default gold skill, which is no stopping me, is way better than the others, so it's not really worth going out of your way to bring in other scenario cards. The only one I'd maybe consider taking instead is Rice Shower, which gives you cooldown, which is a decent long stamina skill, and it's situationally useful, but for at least 95% of my runs, Team Carrots all the way, baby. The Rico friend card is a different story. In general, it's really high value and really good. If you've never used a friend card before, they have an amazing training cost reduction perk, and their dates are pretty great for fixing mood downs. I'd recommend trying to put extra focus on unlocking dates before year 2 for that extra event that gives you a bunch of stats. I'm personally going to be borrowing a max Rico for most of my Unity runs because it's just all around a very strong card that gives you a bunch of stats, and assuming that you have a usable Kita-san yourself. If not, you should still borrow Kita-san. Oh, and finally, wit training is good now. Whenever we get scenarios that reward you for doing any type of trainings by giving you resources or whatever, then wit becomes more valuable. In URA, you didn't get any bonuses, so wit training kinda sucked. But now, with wit training, you can charge your flames up without costing energy, so it's good now. And it's definitely more valuable to run like one wit card if you can afford it in your deck. And yeah, that about wraps it up for my Unity scenario guide. If you have any questions, then leave a comment or ask it in my Discord server, and if there's any corrections I need to make, I'll pin a comment about it down below. Anyways, this scenario is one of the better ones in my opinion, so enjoy it and don't burn out. Thank you for watching, and make sure to give your Umas lots of head pats. Take care.